Yes, welcome back to Home Studio Q&A here on Studio Live today. My name is Pete and I'll be your host for the next 30 to 45 minutes of home and mobile studio questions and answers. If you're here live and you have a question, what I'd like you to do, if you'd be so kind, is pop the word question in front of your comment, and that will be a trigger to me. I don't get triggered by things in that way, but a trigger to me that you have a question, because the folks here in the chat often just have a chat with each other, which is fantastic during the show, but so that I know that it's a question, please throw the word question in front. If you're listening on the replay or watching the replay here on YouTube or Facebook or listening to the podcast version, don't worry, we love you just as much. You can leave your comments wherever you're watching this, or if you're listening on the podcast, just shoot me an email, pete@studiolivetoday.com, or of course join one of our wonderful communities such as the Create, Record, Release Facebook group. Just go to createrecordrelease.com and that will direct you directly there. Lots of directions going on. Let's dive into the show today. We've got a bunch of questions that I've had through the week, and we'll have your live questions and any comments you have here today as well. But before we get started, what we do every week here on the show is a topic of the week. So this one, you might think, is a little bit of low-hanging fruit. If you've been around the channel for a while, you might be thinking, we know the answer to this, but here it is anyway. Why do I use GarageBand on my iPad and iPhone more than any other software for recording music? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It's that I've always done it. I was just talking in the pre-show of this show about sort of the old versus the new, and all of these things where there's, analog people versus digital people. There's Mac versus PC. There's iOS versus Android. And I think that anytime you have a versus in anything, it means that both parties are not actually thinking about the advantages and disadvantages of the other platform. So the way I look at it is you use whatever is going to help you make the best music. Just like your phone. You use the phone that's going to make you the most productive. If you love Android, I couldn't be happier for you. I don't use a Mac, but if you are a huge Mac fan and you have 7 different Macs, I couldn't be happier for you. If it's working for you, then go with it. And I say all that to say that the reason that I use GarageBand on my iPad and my iPhone to produce my music is that it works for me. It is the quickest and easiest way for me to get high quality music recorded and released. And that's what I'm all about. I'm about creating music, recording music, and releasing music. And if I used different software, it would be just as good or maybe better, but it wouldn't be as easy for me to do. So let's break down the 5 main reasons why I use GarageBand. Number 1, it is mobile. So ever since I started getting into mobile recording, I've never gone back. So when I first started recording, like most people, I recorded on like an old 4-track, an old Tascam 4-track tape deck. I then sort of graduated to a PC. I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. And even with my PC, I used a laptop, and I'm like, wow, I can record on my laptop. That's pretty mobile. As soon as I installed GarageBand for the first time on my iPad, I kind of lost my mind, because I thought, now I can actually record and mix and master and release music pretty much anywhere. So wherever I am, I can do that. And then, of course, when GarageBand came to the iPhone, which was about a year later, I thought, right, we're done here now, because now I have my studio in my pocket. So wherever I go, I can actually just grab my mixers and I can start creating, and I can start mixing and producing music. And the thing is, if you say, well, that's cool, but it's not the same quality, here's the thing. It's all digital. So it's 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz sound, which is the exact same bit rate and bit depth that I record on my PC. So whether I grab my microphone, grab my interface, grab whatever, and plug it into my iPhone or iPad, it is exactly the same as if I plug it into a Mac or a PC. And that's the thing about digital that I think sometimes folks miss, is that it's ones and zeros. As soon as you connect up your gear and you start recording, it is converting that analog signal into a digital signal and then capturing and storing that as a file, as a bunch of ones and zeros. So it's no different whether it's storing those ones and zeros on your tiny little iPhone or your big giant $5,000 Mac Pro. It's still the same audio quality. Now, yeah, if you're going to record at 32-bit and 192 kilohertz, you can't do that right now on your iPhone or iPad. It takes up too much space and too much processing power. But I don't actually know many people in the home studio that bother recording anything higher than 24-bit 44.1. Anyway, the second reason is simplicity. So I used to be into the tech stuff. I used to be into the complexity. I used to be into lots of options. As I get older, and can anyone else relate to this? Give me a yay. I hear you, old Pete, in the chat. But can anyone relate to wanting things to be simpler? I used to love diving into the weeds, reading manuals, testing every function. Now I just want plug and play. Not plug and pray, which some things are, but plug and play so that I can just go. I just want it to work, and GarageBand just works. Like, I love trying out other things. I've tried Cubasis and Audio Pro, a couple of other DAWs recently. Both were good, but both were not as simple. And the learning curve meant that I wasn't creating music for a while. So simplicity is number 2. Number 3, I've already sort of alluded to, and that's workflow. So the GarageBand workflow I really enjoy. It's grab a track, turn it on, and start recording. So if I want to record a vocal, I tap on the button that says microphone, and then I'm recording a microphone. If I want to record a guitar, I tap on the guitar amp, I plug in my guitar, and I record guitar. Now, that's not to say that it's not cool to have a bunch of features, and that if you use something like Audio Pro, where you just say new track, and then you've got to set all the options yourself, that's obviously a lot more flexible. But again, I kind of want the simplicity of a workflow where I can just go and record and not even think about it. So that is number 3. Number 4 is it's native to the platform. So I know a lot of people have said, but you could get a Samsung tablet that's got twice as much power for half as much price. And then I look at the software and the hardware integrations on something like Android, and it just doesn't work out of the box. With iOS, yes, you have to buy the Apple Lightning to USB adapter, but once you plug it in, it's going to work. Anything running iOS 13 or 14 is going to work exactly the same as any other device running that iOS, and they're all going to run GarageBand in exactly the same way. So you've got that uniformity and that consistency, meaning that when I swapped out from my iPad Air 2 to my new iPad Pro, all of my projects just came straight across on iCloud Drive, and I just kept going. And that was super cool. And number 5 is you. It's the community that we have around GarageBand. I know not everyone here on the channel uses GarageBand or even likes GarageBand, and that's totally cool. But it is a great community that we have over on Facebook at the GarageBand Users Facebook group, here on Studio Live today. And it just means that you actually can get things done because there are people out there that want to help you. They want to help build you up, not tear you down. And I think that's the thing. Because GarageBand is considered a beginner DAW by some folks, it just means that because we all kind of started at that space, even those that are experts, again, I'm using beginner and experts because it's just about your experience level, will still help out people that are starting out. So there's a great community of people that want to actually they want to see other people succeed and create great music. I get the feeling just in some other groups and forums that I've been in that there's some people that aren't really there to build up other people. They're there to be competitive, or they're there to talk about what they're doing. They're not there to actually help build other people up to create great music. So again, I know this is like shooting fish in a barrel, isn't it? Like saying, why does Pete use GarageBand? I mean, just watch a couple of hundred of my videos and you'll learn why. But that is why. Mobile, simple workflow, native, and the community, most importantly. That is enough about that. Let's have a quick coffee break, and then we will dive on over into some questions from the week. And once again, if you do have questions, I'm losing my voice. If you do have questions, I'll put this on the screen. For those on the podcast, you're thinking, great, Pete. If you've got a question, just put question in front of your question, and I'll make sure that I jump in and grab that. We've got any questions here? We do have a few questions from the folks who are here live, so I'm just scrolling on up to see what that is. Hello to our friend Infraction. We've got a question here. It says, hi Pete, for recording my guitar interfaces are USB and my microphone is USB as well, all from IK Multimedia. So the question is, do I need an audio interface such as your Steinberg, to be continued? Let's find the second half of the question here. Part 2, does it take USB inputs or any other audio interfaces have USB input, or is all I need a powered USB hub? Really good question. Let me just go back to the first part there. So you've got USB guitar interface, USB, and USB microphone. Radio. Sorry, I was singing yesterday, and I think I've lost most of my voice. Great job, Pete. So yes, let's just talk USB interfaces and USB microphones. So a USB, once you plug in a USB interface, that becomes the input and the output for your iPhone or iPad or your Mac or PC. So whether it's a guitar interface, a audio interface, or a USB microphone, they all have built-in audio interfaces. So the problem that you're going to have though is that all USB audio devices, only one can be used at one time. Now, on a Mac or a PC, you can do what's called summing multiple USB audio devices. It's a little bit clunky and it's a little bit weird, and I don't like doing it. But on iPhone or iPad, you can actually only have one. So one input, one output at a time. So if you have a USB guitar interface and a USB mic, if you plug them both in, one will override the other. So your iPad or iPhone will just go, you plug in the USB mic, it'll say, okay, here's your USB input and output. You then plug in the interface, it'll say, oh, now this is the USB input and output. So it won't allow you to have both at once. Even if you have a powered hub, it won't let you have both at once. Now, if you did want to be able to have a microphone and a guitar and record both at the same time, that's where you will need a 2-channel audio interface. So as you've mentioned there, the one that I use and recommend is the Steinberg UR22C or the UR12, anything in that UR series, because they've got great quality preamps, they connect with iOS really easily, they've got multi-power options, meaning you can power them via 5-volt USB or directly bus powered from your device. So that's my recommendation, but you can, of course, go for something like the Irig Pro I/O. There's a Duo version that has 2 channels. If you like the IK multimedia stuff, they're really good. Focusrite, Behringer, Presonus, there's a heap of companies that make good quality audio interfaces. But yeah, the key thing to keep in mind there is that, yes, you can plug in multiple USB devices. So you can put in a MIDI keyboard, USB audio interface, mouse and keyboard, a bunch of different USB devices, USB flash drive. But as soon as you plug a second audio input or output, it's going to override the first one. You can't have 2 of those at the same time, unfortunately. But yeah, thank you for the question, and hopefully that helps you out. Let's jump over, and we'll get through these questions that we've received from the week. So if we hit this button, there we go. So I'll embiggen that. There we go. So this is a question about the touch guitar in GarageBand. I did say we'd have some GarageBand question. And the question is, how do you change the default chord list view in GarageBand Guitar? This is an interesting one. Luckily, here's one I prepared earlier. I've got my GarageBand here. So changing the chord list that you're using in GarageBand is actually pretty simple, except it's a little bit hidden. So let's come in here to GarageBand and we'll take a look. So if we came in, let's come across to our guitar. And we'll choose a cooler guitar. We'll go with the hard rock, because it's a hard rock kind of day. Let's just make sure we got some sound. No, we don't. We'll turn... Whoa! Now we got sound. All right. So you'll notice here that we've got our chords across the top. So it defaults into C. So in C, you've got C major, F major, G, E minor, A minor, D minor, B flat, and B diminished. If we want to change those, I believe... it is, so this is where I'm going to get myself caught out, isn't it? Because there it is. I'm like, phew, I didn't actually check this beforehand because I haven't done this in a while. So you're here in your chord view. Now, if you're in notes view, it won't have it. So if you come up here, if you're in the notes view on the guitar where you're playing your... it won't have it there. So make sure you're in chords view. And this is the same for any other instrument as well. Chords view up to our settings icon. Oh, my mouse is failing again now. Oy. The mouse support in iOS is less than ideal at times. Yeah, it's doing this. We'll just go out, go out and back in again, and see if our mouse is going to... There we go. Mouse is back. If you ever have a mouse issue, just go out of the app and back in again like I just did, and your mouse should start mousing again. It just loses its mojo sometimes. Edit chords is the one we want here, and you can see here that we can just dial in whatever chords we want. So if we want this to be a C sharp major, or C, let's make it interesting. C minor 6 with a bass note of a, an E. Then you get a very interesting chord. Ugh, that sounds terrible. That sustain on that guitar is a little bit ridiculous, isn't it? But that's all there is to it. So all you need to do is go into your settings option here, go to edit chords, and then change your chord there to whatever you want. And you can, of course, hit each different chord and dial that into different chords just using these sliders and make them whatever you would like. So there you go. That is a simple way to get your chords happening here in GarageBand iOS. But thank you. Thank you for your question. I'll turn that volume down so you don't need to listen to that. The disdained disdained guitar, distorted guitar. Let's jump into our next question, and this one comes from Pedro. And it's about USB keyboards, MIDI keyboards in your iPhone or iPad. Hi Pete, I have a question as to if my setup can work. I have a Casio CDP220. To connect it, I will use a USB 2 cable connected to a female-to-female USB adapter connected to the cable from my iPhone's charger. Will this work? And if not, why? Please and thank you. Yeah, sing along with me. You will need a genuine Apple Lightning to USB 3 adapter. Unfortunately, there's no way around this. I've talked about it a lot. I've done a heap of videos where I've shown the adapter and talked about why. But if you are new to the channel and you're new to connecting things to your iPhone or iPad, if you have a Lightning-based iPhone or iPad, then you need to use the genuine Apple Lightning to USB 3 adapter. It's the one that has the additional Lightning port. It's going to ensure that you not only can connect successfully to your devices, but have enough power to run them. So especially if you're using a larger MIDI keyboard that is bus powered, or you're using an audio interface, the genuine Lightning to USB 3 adapter is a prerequisite. The smaller one, the Apple one, that doesn't have the additional Lightning port can work, especially for smaller MIDI keyboards, or if you're using a powered USB hub, then it definitely will work. If you do have questions about this sort of stuff though, if you search my name, Pete Johns, USB, Lightning to USB, you'll find about 4 or 5 videos all about the Lightning to USB 3 adapter. What happens if you try to use a different adapter? Well, for what you're asking here, if you just plugged it directly in and used an adapter to convert the male to female, it's just simply not going to work at all. It's not going to create the required USB host to actually successfully connect up. So it'll plug in, but nothing's going to happen. It's not going to show up and it's not going to allow you to use that keyboard. If you use a cheaper third-party adapter, it'll do one of a few things. It'll either work just fine for now, and then maybe not work down the track if Apple do an update to iOS. It will work to start with and then intermittently drop out, which is really painful, and that's why I really don't like using them, because nothing worse than being in the middle of a really cool keyboard part and then it just says, this accessory not supported, this device not recognized, and you're like, ugh. Or third, it'll just do nothing. So I've had experience, I've tried a bunch of them so that you don't have to, and I've had experience with them all, and they've done one of those 3 things. I still haven't had one that continues working to this day. I know some people have, your mileage may vary, you may luck out and get one that just happens to work, but again, Apple may just update their iOS, and if it doesn't have that chip inside, therefore it's not the original Apple version, it may suddenly not work. So please keep that in mind if you're doing the thing. Bubba's got a good note here on the last question. Note that on the major or minor, the extended harmonies are ignored by the autoplay feature. Yeah, the autoplay doesn't necessarily, so the autoplay is kind of an automatic, if you haven't used autoplay before, it automates and just plays an arpeggio or something in that key or on that chord. Some of your more complex chords, it's not going to play every note of that. So it's very good point to make there, Bubba. So thank you. And yes, it was indeed a lovely chord that I created there. Alrighty, let's continue on to our next question. This one's about DistroKid and about releasing music. So if you've been watching the channel lately, you would have seen that I released my new song called New Beginning, and that is out and available now on all your favorite streaming platforms. Just go to Spotify's and Apple Music and iTunes and Google Play and search Pete Johns New Beginning. You'll find it. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Yusuf's question. Hello there. I'm making music only as a hobby and use DistroKid just to get my music out there. So is it okay if I don't provide that tax info and not withdraw that, probably very little money, that my music generates? What happens to the money in that case? This is a really fascinating question because I don't know. And I don't know if anyone else knows. And it's probably something I could ask DistroKid. But I think it will just sit there in your account. And if you don't provide, so if you're not aware of this, to withdraw money through DistroKid if you make royalties. So let's go back a step. DistroKid are a distributor. So if you want to release your music and then put it in Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music, just like I talked about before, you upload it to DistroKid and then they arrange for it to be distributed to all the different platforms. Once it's actually out there, if people buy it or stream it, then you get all the royalties of that stream or that purchase. So for streaming, it's about 0.04 cents per stream. So you have to stream quite a few before you start making money. And if you buy it, you get 70% of any purchase price back. So if you have an album on iTunes for $10, let's just say that Yusuf releases an album on iTunes for $10. Someone buys it for $10. Apple take $3. Yusuf gets $7. There's then $7 sitting in their DistroKid account. What if you don't want to withdraw it? Well, my understanding would be it'll just sit there. Now, I don't know for how long. I don't know what the lifetime is. I guess just forever until you choose to withdraw it or if you don't withdraw it. And the other part of this is that to withdraw that money, because it is considered earnings, you do need to provide tax information. So there's something in the US called, and I'm not, okay, warning, Peter's not an accountant. I know very little about finance, but there is something in the US called withholding tax. And I only know this because I have this, I do this, and I need to know these things of what happens in other countries. But withholding tax means that they will withhold a certain amount of tax in the US if you are outside of the US. So for me here in Australia, it's 10%. It's up to 30% depending where you are. And there's been some people making videos saying, DistroKid is stealing my money. And it's like, well, no, DistroKid are withholding 30% tax because your country doesn't have a treaty with America, and it's the US tax department that are keeping your money, not DistroKid. Anyway, that's a side note. But yeah, so I think the answer to this is, yeah, if you don't provide your tax information, they won't pay you. But if you don't want to get paid and therefore don't want to provide your tax info, I think everyone's fine. DistroKid just keep your money. You just keep using them to distribute, and yeah, we're all hunky-dory. So that would be my view. But if anyone has any other views, let me know. Next question, again about connecting our USB, a USB keyboard or piano. I've got a question here from Arda. It says, hey man, are you sure I can use the camera adapter for keyboards? Isn't that thing only works for cameras? Love your videos. Thank you, my friend. So yeah, it's super confusing that if you walk into the Apple store, even today, even now that the camera adapter has been out for 10 plus years, it is still called a camera adapter. And depending who you talk to at Apple, they may not even know what you can and can't connect to it. And to be honest, the company line is it's a camera adapter because they know it'll work for connecting a standard camera. They don't know what USB devices it will work for. So if you ever go into Apple and you say, hey, I've got the Steinberg UR22C, which adapter do I use? They will probably say, I'll probably read off a script and they'll be like, Apple wish to advise that we do not recommend and we do not guarantee that any USB device will work with our Apple Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter. Thank you, goodbye. They won't say it like that because that would be weird, but that will be the crux of it. Reason being is that your device needs to be class compliant. So the only thing I'll say about this is your device, your keyboard, your audio interface, your USB flash drive, your whatever it is that you're connecting does need to be class compliant, meaning that it can run without the use of a driver. So if you've got a really old, I haven't come across any for a while, but if you've got a really old keyboard that needs a specific USB driver to actually connect to a PC or a Mac, then yeah, maybe it wouldn't work. But every keyboard that I've thrown at my iPhone or iPad has worked. So I've used my M Audio keyboard, I've got my little Chord Nano keyboard over there, my Casio actual digital piano, all of those, plug and play, they're right there. And the reason is that Midi and USB Midi has been a very standard compliant format for a really long time. So the older versions have the Midi plugs and you just need a Midi to USB adapter. The newer keyboards are all just USB, and they use very standard USB, what is it called, general MIDI. So standard USB MIDI. So yeah, they'll connect up fine. Righty dokie. Let's move on to our next question. I'll just check the chat and make sure we've got no questions there. Hello, Willie. Thanks for being here. New sub, respect from good old England. And yeah, shout out to my friends in England, the UK, England and the UK. In the UK and in Europe, we are an hour earlier with daylight saving time for a little while. So that might help you actually be able to get here a little bit easier for these earlier shows. Next question here. Fabian says, hey, Pete. Here bothering once again. No bother, that's what I'm here for. How did you split the drum MIDI stem into individual stems for every part of the drum? By the way, the trick that you show on the video is awesome, thank you. Now this was, I don't have the video there, but this was one of my drum videos. So if you've been watching the channel, I've got a couple of different drum videos that have been released in the last 2 days. One is how to do exactly this, which I'll show in a moment. One is the kick drum, and these are all Gary Hubbs techniques. Well, the splitting the drums out isn't specifically. I've done that before, and Jade did did that on my recent song, but getting the kick drum sound and then the one that's coming out later today, which is the snare drum, they are 100% Gary Hubs, lifted with pride from Gary's personal strategies. So yeah, let's jump in and I'll just show you this really quickly because it's actually super simple to get this done. So what we'll do, let's just have a bit of fun here, shall we? We'll bring up the drum kit. We'll use something that I haven't used for a while, which is our beat sequencer. Love playing around with me some beat sequencer. And people think, oh, beat sequencer is only really, well, I mean drummer. I needed drums, not drummer. The beat sequencer is only good for electronic music. No, you can totally use it for any sort of music. So here it is, and it defaults to the 808 because, you know, who doesn't love a cool 808 kick drum? Let's just turn up my volume, shall we? Who doesn't love the sound of a boom? Boom. Gotta love your 808s. Turn that off. But if we change this off, oh, my mouse again. All right. But if we come in here, we'll come out, bump, bump. If we come down here to the bottom left, we can choose any of our other kits. So if we go to acoustic, let's go to, what's one of my favorite? Actually, what's one I haven't used for a while? I haven't used the Scientific Method kit for a while. So we'll use the Scientific Method kit and we'll play this one. That's a pretty cool track, right? So we'll just record in a little bit of this. We hit the record button here. It'll just record in a little bit of this sort of sound. Cool. So we've just got 4 bars or 2 bars. I don't know. We've got some bars. So let's go back to our track view. So we'll tap the track view at the top left here. This is what we got, right? So the method is pretty simple. If we wanted to sort of mix this in, we can do this. We can come in here. You can go to your plugins and EQ, and you can start playing around with things. But what if you wanted to actually change this up and you wanted to put these on separate tracks? Well, the method that I use and that I showed is that we tap it, we duplicate it. In fact, we'll just do it. Let's say we wanted to split it out into 4 different tracks. We'll duplicate it 4 times. We then tap this one, we copy it, and let's paste it in 4 times now. So we'll go boom, paste, back to the start, boom, paste, back to the start, boom, paste. Now, you say, well, we've just got 4 versions of the same track. Yeah, but now we're going to use some reduction here to actually change these around. So this first one, well, what I'd do is I'd keep your first one as it needs to be. So let's say we wanted this one to be the kick drum. All we need to do is tap there, tap again, go into our edit, and then go find our kick drum, which is down the bottom here, that one there, and then just remove everything else. So we just tap outside, drag over everything, tap in here, and tap delete. And then we got just our kicks on this track. And then you can see what we can do here. Say we want our snare track, we just do the same thing here. We edit there. And I know many of you have seen this before, so I won't spend too much time on this, but we just delete out your kicks, boom, and then delete out everything. Is this my snare here? No, that's my... All right, so we'll put delete everything but the snare. Oh, my mouse again. There we go. Boom, everything but the snare goes away. And then you've got a snare track, right? And then you could just make this track your everything else track. So if you came in here, edit it out, just take out the kick and the snare for this one and leave everything else in there. Boom, 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 delete. So now you've got like 3 tracks here. And if we muted out the first one, if we start soloing these in, there's just your kick. Here's your snare. And here's everything else. And why that's cool is that now you can do cool things like come in here and use like the Gary Hubs kick drum technique to come in here to your EQ, give it a bunch more thump, give it some high end here to get that clickiness going on, and then you get a kick drum that sounds more like this. And then you can do the same on your snare. Spoiler alert, I'll show you what's coming out in the video here. You can do the same with your snare. So you can roll it off there. You can give it some nice clickiness as well at the top end of your snare to make it punch through. And then you can use the Gary Hubs patented distortion effect to actually give this a little bit more of a boost. So you can bring this in here like this, and then you can put the distortion on your snare drum, and you get this sort of sound. And then your drums can really cut through your mix. So I know that was a really long-winded way of answering a very simple question, which is how do you do that drum stem thing and how do you copy those out? But yeah, I just thought I'd show a real-time demonstration of that. We'll go back here. I'm going to delete that because You can see here by all these My Songs, every time I do a little demo like that, I don't want to keep it, but then I end up with all these little remnants of projects in there. So hopefully that helps you out and anyone else out who is looking to do some drum mixing and drum programming on your iPhone or iPad in GarageBand. Let's move on to the next question that has come in from Through the Week. We'll bring our screen back up over here and do that one. So let's go to the next one here. Oh, this is a really long one. I haven't actually read this one. I just saw a big question here. So this one's from Dill Taco. Question is it possible to copy and paste a line of MIDI drums onto a different drum sound? Oh no, I should have stayed in my drums. My application is I want to duplicate all my snare sounds onto the rim shot line of its own drum track and mix the two sounds together. I can't seem to highlight multiple MIDI notes and drag them onto a different drum sound. Copy paste would be ideal so the velocity carries over identically. Another application would be changing a ride symbol to a crash symbol in a section without needing to reprogram anything. Can't find a video on it anywhere. So I would have thought this this should work exactly the same way. Let's come back to GarageBand, shall we? Now that we've got rid of that drum, let's come back in here. We'll go back into our song. We'll tap on our drums again. Back in our beat sequencer. This time, let's just go with a different one. We'll go with the Bluebird. Record in some Bluebird and just test this out, shall we? Cool. So we'll go back to our drum view here. So what our friend here is asking is, can we change which kit piece is playing here? So I think we can. If we edit here, I'm pretty sure we can move things around here without too much hassle. So for the application they wanted, so there's our rim shot as opposed to our snare. So what if we wanted to move this snare up to the rim shot? It should be as simple, I would have thought, as highlighting this whole line. So grabbing out here, highlighting all of that. Can we just click and drag it up? Is that going to work? If we click and drag, yeah. So there you go. Click and drag, and that will just put it into the new location. So again, we'll just undo that, and I'll show you that move again. So undo. Oh, the mouse is failing. All right. So we'll go out and back in again. So if you wanted to change again the snare drum to the rim shot, highlight all your snare drums like that, grab and hold, and just move it up. Now I'm assuming you could also tap here and go copy, or cut even. So you could cut or copy and paste, and then just, you'd have to make sure your playhead's in exactly the right spot, and then paste it back here on the different, yeah, no. Paste won't work because it puts it right back on the same thing, because it can't determine what track you're on. So I think you're going to have to go with the grab and hold, and move up like that. And then, if we listen to what this sounds like, sounds quite cool with the rim shot, doesn't it? And we don't have any cymbals in here, except for our hi-hat. But say, yeah, if you wanted to move your cymbals, same deal. Want to move your hi-hat and pop it up onto your ride or onto your bell? Yeah, let's put it up here on the bell of the ride cymbal and see what this sounds like. There you go. So yeah, hopefully that helps you out, because I've never technically done that before, but yeah, it seems to work. And the other thing is, what if you wanted to use a different snare drum? Well, I think we can copy patterns between different kits. If we copied this one, and then say we came out here and we duplicated this out, but we then changed up this drum kit. If we change this drum kit like so, and say we put this over onto the heavy kit instead, and came back to our track view. Can we do, oh, see, yeah, we need to go to edit, and then what if we paste in here? Yeah, so it's going to put it here, but it's going to put it onto the track. And again, so we can take the snare from one drum kit and put it onto another, or the cymbals. And I think Jade does this with her crash cymbals. She gets a second kit and then puts some of the crashes onto that second kit's crash cymbal. So you get the two different crash sounds, and it sounds like you've got a kit with two crash cymbals. So yeah, drums for the win, hey? Who knew it was going to be a drum-heavy episode here today? But yeah, there you go. There's a couple of tips that can help out with your drum programming here in GarageBand. Alrighty, we'll come back over to the questions and see what else we got here. Once again, if you're here live, please put question in front of any comments. If you have a question, I'm keeping an eye there. It looks like there's some folks chatting and helping each other out, which is always cool. But if anyone has questions for me, put the word question in front. Here's another one. It's from Carissa. Says, thank you. So this is about how to use WAV and MP3 files in your GarageBand iOS projects. He says, okay, so I screen recorded a song and I don't know how to put it on GarageBand. Any tips? Right, so if you've screen recorded a song, it means you've probably used the screen recorder, which is going to record as video. So if we do something, if we engage the screen recorder, if you've not used it before, it won't show. It's displaying that, so it won't actually show my screen recorder because it's showing that it's mirroring. But if you swipe down from the top right corner and you hit the record button, that's going to record your screen as a video file. Now, the problem there is that it's not audio, so GarageBand won't recognize it, and you need to convert it into an audio file to do that. Now, I've not actually done this before, so I would have to do some testing to see what app can actually do it. Audio Share is what I usually use for converting video into audio. In fact, if I go to my audio share, I might even have something in there that I've been working on that might actually be an example of this. Oh, the mouse is just not doing it for me today. Why won't you go back? Oh, there we go. Let's see if we've got something here where I've got a video. Because what I do is for things like this, for this podcast, the podcast version of this one, I actually import the video file and then I convert it to audio right here in Audio Share. As it turns out, I have... Oh, do I have anything in video import? Yeah, here we go. So here's exactly what I do. So you can see here that this is the previous, or one of the previous ones. We've got all of these MP4 files. So these are video files, right? So you can see that it's generating them there, but they're actually video files. So I wouldn't be able to bring these into GarageBand. But what I can do here in Audio Share is actually convert this. So if I wanted to grab this was my recent Happy Hour Jukebox edition. If I wanted to convert this into an actual audio file, I just hit Tools in the top right corner and we convert. And then I can convert it here into a WAV file, and then it's going to be compatible to bring in to GarageBand. So Audio Share might be a good option. I haven't tried it with a screen recording video though, so that may be a little bit different. Why don't we just try this real quick? You can't see this on the screen, but I'm just engaging the screen. Oh, it won't let me screen record. I can't do it while I'm actually while I'm recording here, while I'm screen sharing, so that won't work there. But maybe I'll try that, or if anyone wants to test it, if you screen record, because it does put it into a different, I think it's a .mov movie file, whether you can then convert that here in Audio Share to an audio file, I've not actually tried. Maybe that's something I need to do a video on, how to screen record and then bring the audio of that screen recording into GarageBand, because there'd be a bunch of purposes. Hopefully the purposes aren't nefarious or for breaching anyone's copyright, but there would be a bunch of purposes that you'd want to do that for, such as like sampling a sound or sampling some of your own sounds that you have that you're just playing in a video. Say you've gone out and taken a video of something and you want to screen record it. I don't know. I'm sure there's reasons for it. But yeah, hopefully that will work for you. And yeah, good luck. But Audio Share's one. The other one that I really like is Voice Record Pro 7. So if we come in here, I haven't got my keyboard. It's down here. Grab my keyboard and go voice. It is this one, Voice Record Pro 7, and I've showed this before, but this is a really good converter as well. So if Audio Share doesn't work for converting that, I would jump in and try this one here, Voice Record Pro 7, and then convert that to a WAV file, and again, do the same thing there. So hopefully that helps you out with that particular question. We'll jump in, because I think we've got a couple more questions to go here. We've got folks asking about other questions in the chat here, and I think infarction. I keep pronouncing your name wrong. My apologies. I think I spelled it wrong, and it's still probably wrong in the description of yesterday's show. You can save the audio. You can save the audio of any track in video in LumaFusion, I think, and maybe also in iMovie if you're asked to separate the audio from the video. Yeah, so iMovie you can. I don't think you can export as audio from iMovie, but you definitely can export as audio from LumaFusion. So yeah, if you want to spend a few dollars, that would be actually the best way to go. So LumaFusion supports a whole bunch of different audio and video formats, and that definitely, because I use LumaFusion to do my own videos, I know that it does support screen recording videos, and you would correctly, as you say, you would be able to export those screen recording videos as just standard audio files, because you can export as audio direct from LumaFusion. So very, very cool. Thanks for that. Alrighty. We've got folks again asking about the Lightning to USB adapter again, and yes, Dylan's saying that the fake ones don't work. Yeah, so if you want any more information on this, let me just find my I think it is on this page, because I get this question asked so much. I think it's on studiolivetoday.com/USB. In fact, it is. So if you go to studiolivetoday.com/USB, if we bring this one up over here, this is my page just for folks connecting USB stuff to your iPhone or iPad. So there it says, as you can see, connecting USB devices and drives to your iPhone or iPad, you've come to the right place. So here I've got links here to my videos of unboxing and my demonstration of the Lightning to USB adapter, and where you can actually buy that one. I've got USB drives, I've got USB audio interfaces and USB powered hubs, and how to do all of those things. So if you want to know why and how and all that sort of thing, follow this video. This will bring up my demonstration video of the Lightning to USB 3 adapter. There's a younger, without 10 kilograms of COVID, Pete, but this is how to connect multiple USB devices to your iPhone or iPad using the powered USB hub. And the device I'm holding in my hand there, we'll pause on, is, you can see that the USB and the second Lightning port. So the USB plugs is what your device plugs into, or your powered hub plugs into, and then the Lightning cable provides enough power to power up your iPhone or iPad while you're using it, and also provides some additional power to your devices. So that's why I recommend that one. Yes, it is more expensive, as you can see here. If you go, I think they're in stock at Sweetwater at the moment. So if we click the link there, that should take us into the link on Sweetwater, and at last check, they're in stock. Yes, so they are $39. And I know, $39 for a piece of plastic, but you buy it once. Like, I bought it once and I've been using the same one for coming up 3 years. And now I use my iPad Pro, which is USB-C. Different story. We'll cover that in other videos. But yeah, it's this. It looks like that. It has the 2 ports at the bottom there, one for the USB, one for Lightning to power it up, and it just works out of the box every time. It's got the chip inside. It's MFI, made for iPod, so it's certified by Apple. It means that any time that they update the iOS, then you're good, you're safe. You buy the cheaper ones, they might be $15 or $20, but yeah, they're either going to not work or they're going to have a very limited lifespan. So I know I talk about this a lot, but there seems to be a lot of folks that are still asking questions about this, so I wanted to be super clear on that one. So again, studiolivetoday.com/USB. All of the links to exactly the ones that I recommend that will get you working are right there. And yes, they are affiliate links, which means if you make purchases through Amazon or Sweetwater there, they will break off a tiny chunk and send it my way. So thank you for supporting the channel if you choose to do that. Righty dokie. Let's come back over. I think we've got some more questions here. I'll just pop down that one there. And jump over here. More connection related questions that we have, and this is a similar question to ones we've had before, but slight variation. So I connected my piano to GarageBand, but while I play the piano with the sound effects on GarageBand, I still hear the sound of the piano, but I only want to hear the effects. How can I solve this? Yeah, so when you plug in via USB with Midi, what you're doing is you're actually triggering the Midi sound. You're triggering the virtual instrument sounds on your iPhone or iPad. So let's assume you plug into GarageBand and you're playing your keyboard or your drums or your whatever, your guitar sound using your Midi keyboard. Yeah, that's triggering those sounds. It's not actually sending any audio from your keyboard or your piano. It's just sending data. It's sending ones and zeros again, and they're triggering the sounds on your keyboard, on GarageBand. If you want to record the actual sounds of your keyboard or your piano, you'll need to send the sound out via an analog output, so your headphone jack or your RCA or some sort of line out, and then use an audio interface to accept that sound into your iPhone or iPad. I've got videos about how to do both of those here on the channel. What you're asking here is, why am I hearing the sound of my piano and the sound of that? Well, all you really need to do is turn your volume down. So because you're sending data, you don't need the volume up on your Midi piano or Midi keyboard at all. So if you're using a keyboard that has its own built-in sounds, and when you're playing, you're hearing the sound of your keyboard or piano, as well as the sound of GarageBand's virtual instruments, simply turn the volume of your piano or keyboard down to 0, and then you'll only hear the instrument sound. It won't affect the sending of the data. Remember, not audio, just data. So it won't affect the sending of the Midi data. It won't affect the volume of your GarageBand or your iPhone or iPad. It'll only affect the volume you're hearing through your keyboard. So it's what I recommend doing whenever you're recording Midi, is don't have the sound of the actual keyboard up, just turn it down and you'll be hearing just the other one. So hopefully that helps you out. Righty dokie, we'll continue on here. I think I've got a couple more questions. Again, related to releasing music with DistroKid. Tony TV says, can I remove just one song out of my album that is uploaded and released, or do I have to remove the whole album? Great info. So, yes, unfortunately, you do need to remove an entire album. So let's say you released an album with 10 tracks, and you've released it through DistroKid. It's now available on Spotify and iTunes and everywhere else. What you can't do is add or remove tracks from that album. So if you wanted to, say, make it a 9-track album because you really hate track 7, well, guess what? You have to remove the entire album and then re-upload it as a 9-track album. You can't actually just adjust one or add as well. So if you wanted to add an 11th track, you need to remove the whole thing and re-upload it. There's a bunch of reasons why that's the case. Mostly that if someone's bought an album in the past and then it gets changed, and then they're going to re-download it and it's different. Yeah, the stores don't like that. And the same with adding things to it. You might have bought an album that was only 7 tracks, and then suddenly it's 11 tracks. You're like, hey, the version I bought only had 7 tracks. So they want to keep it as similar to the old school record buying experience as possible, that once it's out, once it's released, it's done. You can still change things, but you do need to remove them and re-release them to make changes there. Back to the USB audio interfaces. Says good. So Troa says good video, but you did not explain how I can charge my iPad at the same time while using these devices. Battery hasn't been an issue with my iPad, and I need help, please. I think I pretty much covered this in the answer to the last question. So the answer to your problems is the Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter from Apple. It has the USB port and it has a separate Lightning port too. Just plug that into a portable battery, your AC power charger, and you're good to go. So that will keep you powered up at all times. So hopefully that helps you out with that one. And that was the last question that came through from the week. So let's jump back over and see. We've got folks talking about keyboards and USB drives and how to use different things. So I think all the answers have been covered that people have had there. So yeah, so the key things to remember with connecting USB devices, because that seems to be what's being discussed here, is if you're using an iPhone or iPad with a Lightning connection, you need to use the Lightning to USB 3 adapter from Apple. If it's a USB-C, you can use pretty much any generic USB-C connection. If you're rocking the iPad Pro 2020 or 2018, then you're on USB-C. You can use pretty much anything. Power is key, so a powered USB hub is always a good idea if you're going to be using multiple USB devices or even things like audio interfaces that draw a lot of power. So I would always recommend getting a powered USB hub and a Lightning to USB 3 adapter, and then make sure that your devices are class compliant, which means that they don't need any drivers to run and can be plugged in and are plug and play and ready to go. They're honestly the 3 things that you need to keep in mind: is the connection type, making sure you have a genuine good quality connection, making sure you have enough power to power up your devices, and making sure the devices themselves are class compliant. If you get those 3 things right, you're going to be good to go. Let's just see if we've got any further questions here from folks who are here live. Otherwise, we will put a fork in this one and be done. Stu Cash only 50 minutes late, right? Can't be trusted. And I even made it earlier for you. We have a question here. Supplementary to my previous, do any audio interfaces have multiple USB inputs? Good question. No. So there is no way to connect. So because USB is data, it's not audio. Your audio interfaces, I haven't come across any that allow you to convert USB back to audio, because you would need a converter. You'd need to do the digital to analog conversion. So you'd need to have a way to convert the USB back to an analog sound, get it back in through your audio interface, and then back to digital. So because you can't have 2 digital audio connections at the same time, I haven't come across anything that has. Some of them do have USB hubs on your audio interface, but again, they're only for like MIDI keyboards, only for data devices, not for audio devices. So people have asked that before, because unfortunately people start out, they buy a USB mic and then say they're doing podcasting, or they want to suddenly record stereo. They're like, oh, can I just get a second USB mic and plug it in, or use a hub and plug in 2 USB mics? Unfortunately, once you're down the USB mic path, there's no way to then utilize that USB mic with an audio interface set up in the future. Not that I've come across anyway. So hopefully that helps out. Question here from Muhammad says, can I plug 2 TRS cables with 1 Irig on my phone? If you have the Irig Pro IO Duo, then yes. but most of your Irig devices only have a single input. So if you've got a single input, you can only plug one TRS cable in at a time. And most of them actually are more designed for instrument inputs. Apart from the 2-channel ones, your single-channel one, I'd have to check my Irig Pro I/O. Maybe it accepts TRS. I'm not sure. It definitely accepts a TS instrument signal. But yeah, if you've got stereo TRS coming out, you'd need a stereo 2-channel interface to accept that and to record it. Tom Rochelle, always good to see you here. As someone who creates LumaFusion videos every day, how are you managing storage? And I'm finding projects and files take up a ton of space. Yeah, really good question. So as you may know, if you've been around the channel, this is what I use to edit every video you see here on the channel. So even the ones that I record on my PC using OBS, if I'm doing demonstrations or recording my face cam through my webcam, I then send it over to my iPhone. I use Audio Share's Wi-Fi drive feature. I send the video that I create here over to my iPhone. I then send the capture from my iPad to my iPhone. I put them in a folder, and then I put them into LumaFusion and edit them together. This is a 256 gigabyte iPhone XS, so it does have quite a bit of storage space to make sure that I have enough room for all of those files. But I do have to be pretty vigilant that once I've created it, basically I've had to say goodbye to keeping all of my old source files. The way I was before, Tom, is that I would keep copies of everything just in case. Nowadays, if there's something super important, I will keep a copy of it, but I very rarely, if ever, go back and re-edit old footage. So what I basically do is I say once it's on YouTube, it's gone, it's done, and then I can remove any of the source files and the project files from my iPhone. So I've got really lean. I've literally only got the 2 videos, the one that came out last night, which I'll delete today, and then the one that's coming out tonight, are the only 2 projects in LumaFusion on my iPhone. And that's just the way that I keep things neat and tidy there. You might say, but what if something happens here? Well, all of them are on YouTube. I can download them from YouTube at any time. And what I do is occasionally there's a service called Google Takeout, I think it's called. I always forget. I always have to Google it every time I do it. But there's a Google service where you can download full resolution copies of everything that you've put into Google. So everything in photos, everything in videos, everything in YouTube. I really should do a video about it because it's a super handy service, but it's kind of hidden in the weeds. So I do that, which means I can get a local backup of the complete video file. So if I do want to chop it up and use it later, I can do that. But yeah, that's my secret sauce, mate, is that I just simply don't keep any of the original source files or source projects of any of my videos. So yes, it's takeaway content here, disposable content, I guess, because I do a video every day. I would fill up my phone within about a month if I kept all the stuff. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Alrighty, I think we've answered everything here. Yeah, cool. So thank you everyone for being here. We are right on time, so I am going to have to run here. I hope this worked okay. Let me know how Restream is going, because I'm testing out Restream all this weekend for all of my shows, trying it out because I have been using StreamYard before. It's a good idea. As much as I say stay in your comfort zone when something just works, I do want to test out if things could potentially be better. And I do like some of the screen recording, the screen sharing and the different sizes, so I can do things like that and I can move things around. And we have stereo audio, which I'll be testing in the Happy Hour show. So we're doing another jukebox edition of the Happy Hour show, just getting together, spending an hour, playing some tunes, having some fun. We'll be doing that here on the channel in just a few hours, an hour earlier because of daylight saving time again. So I hope you can join me for that one. Tomorrow we've got GarageBand Weekly, so for my GarageBand using friends, hope you can join me for that one. And then a full week of Studio Live Today content. Please head over to the website, studiolivetoday.com. That's going to give you all the information and all the ways that you can keep in touch with me and the channel here. Thank you to my wonderful patrons over on patreon.com/PeteJohns. We have some good times over there. They get early access to some of my videos, and at certain levels, they get exclusive live streams, like our friend Tom, who was just chatting there. We have fun on our monthly live streams. So thank you, everyone, for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Be kind to yourselves and to others.